Hello students! Today we're going to be talking about rhetorical forms, paragraphs, and transitions. So, the rhetorical form is basically the structure or style that you use to write your paper. Obviously in this course we're focusing on the argument form, but there are lots of other forms that you can use as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's look at the rhetorical form of the argument. Now you've just finished creating your outline. So I am actually having you use an outline that looks like Model A. I did choose to put this up here so that you could see that there are different ways of structuring your argument paper. I went with this one because I feel like sometimes if you talk about the counter argument first, as these other models do, a lot of times you think that your main points are already made, and so it's very easy for you to gloss over things that are very important. So I chose Model A so that it would give you a really good chance to talk about your main points in detail before you start thinking about how to deal with opposition in your counter argument. So now that we know that that's the framework that we're using, let's take a look at the specific paragraphs. So we're specifically looking at the structure of body paragraphs in this lecture, and you just finished an outline that kind of looks like this. You talk about your intro, your background, and then you talk about your main points and do your opposition, your refutation of that opposition, and your conclusion. We're going to talk about how you structure these main points, these body paragraphs. So you might have seen something that looks like this in our Writing Resources tab. There is a revision strategies list, and this is a compilation of different writing strategies that I've collected and my friend Barbara Orstrom has collected over the years as we've worked with college students on their writing. It's organized into different areas based according to the hierarchy of concerns, which you're going to hear about next week. And one of the sections in the hierarchy of concerns is paragraph organization. And there's something called the basic paragraph model. And we're going to be talking about this in greater detail today. So the basic format for a well-designed paragraph is you begin with a topic sentence, you have one or two ideas that are supported with details, reasons, facts, examples, explanations, and then you conclude / transition into your next topic area. So that's the basic format, and I'm going to break that down into 5 steps for you. So when you are shaping your paragraphs, the first thing that you need to do, it's almost like writing a mini paper. So just like we wrote a thesis for our paper, you're going to be writing a topic sentence, which is like a mini thesis for your paragraph. So you need to decide what that main idea or that controlling idea is for your and create a sentence for it. And after you do that, you're going to explain what that idea is, give me some examples or support of that idea. Then you're going to explain that evidence and close the paragraph's main idea or transition into the next paragraph. So, step 1 is the topic sentence. And I'm going to be doing an example with you as we go through this so that you can see what it looks like. So like I said, the topic is sentence is your main idea. And in the example that we're going to be using, the topic sentence for the paragraph is slave spirituals, referring to songs, often had hidden double meanings. Okay, so that's going to be the focus for the paragraph that I'm going to show you as we formulate this together. Okay, so the second step is, okay, let's explain this idea, all right? Maybe most people don't know a lot about spiritual slave music, so we're going to have to do some explaining. So when you explain the idea, you really want to think about what you need to convey to the reader to get them to the level of understanding that you have on your topic. Okay, so for example, with my paragraph, on one level, spirituals referenced heaven, Jesus, and the soul, but on another level, the song spoke about slave resistance. So there's an example of me explaining this idea that there are two different ways that you could look at the meaning of these songs. Okay, so step 3. Give me an example of what you're talking about. You're going to be giving me some support or evidence of the main idea, and it should be a very good example that really represents what you're trying to say. Okay, so in my paragraph, I have one example of the song O Canaan, Sweet Canaan, which talked about heaven, but it could also be considered as expressing a desire to escape to the north, where heaven could be the north could be considered heaven. So if you look in the examples in the lyrics, I don't expect to stay much longer here. Run to Jesus, shun the danger. I don't expect to stay. So this could mean I'm expecting to go to heaven soon, or it could mean I'm expecting to run away to the north. Okay, and my second example is a song like Steal Away to Jesus at midnight to announce to other slaves the time and place of secret forbidden meetings. Okay, so after you show people what your examples are, you can't just drop those bombs on them and run away. You have to explain those examples. So, you're interpreting this information so that the reader understands how this connects to your main idea and how it supports it. Okay, so for my explanation, for example A, when slaves sang the song, like I said, they could be talking about departing their life and going to heaven, or they could be talking about running away south. And for my explanation of example B, it's pretty similar to A, so that explanation alone is sufficient for my example A and example B. In this case, in your particular case, that might be different. However, I will warn you that if you have two very different examples, you might want to separate them into two separate points and actually make two different paragraphs out of it. So make sure that you're really your examples stick to the one topic that you're discussing. And step 5 is closing and or transitioning, depending on where you are in your paper. And this is like a mini conclusion. You're wrapping up your ideas. So this is a really good way to do like a mini summary, and you can even tie it into the next point if you wish. So in my example, well, white people heard songs, slaves were actually hearing hidden messages that allowed them to sing what they were not free to say, as far as making plans to meet or plans to run away up north. So my completed paragraph looks like this. If you'd like to read it, feel free to pause the button and read the example. What I'm going to talk about next is transitions. So we've talked about the various rhetorical forms, specifically the classical argument. We've talked about the basic paragraph format, and now we're going to be talking about transitions. So again, if you look in our revision strategies, you will see there's a transition test. That's one way that one strategy that you could use to formulate your transitions, and the other one is number 31, the keyword bridge. Okay, so I'm going to just briefly go through these two models right here on the PowerPoint so that you have these here as well. And basically these are two different ways of creating a transition after you've summarized your main idea. So if you look at the last sentence of your paragraph, you can think about where you might go next by asking yourself some questions. And when you look at that sentence of your next paragraph, you're basically figuring out which direction you're going into, and creating a transition from point A to point B so that your readers understand where you're going next. The second strategy that you can use to create a transition is to think about your thesis and circle the keywords in your thesis or in your topic sentence, and then look at the topic sentence of your next paragraph and think about how you can combine these with transitional words so that people, again, can understand where you're going and what the connection is between the two ideas. So those are two strategies for you to play around with. A couple of important things to remember as we move forward shaping our actual paragraphs. The first one is always remember, make sure that you're sticking to one idea. Consider how you are going to present your ideas. There's a logic to this. And think about using different rhetorical forms within your paragraphs to present your ideas in the strongest way. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. Okay, so the first idea is paragraph unity. Always make sure that everything in your one paragraph talks about and supports and explains that one topic sentence. If you do that, your paragraphs will be very nicely formed. You won't be wondering, oh, should I make a paragraph here? Should I start a different one here? It will be very clear, to not only to you, but to your reader. The second idea, again, how to arrange your argument. There's a couple of different schools of thoughts on how to do it. It could be chronological, depending on what your topic is. It could be spatial. It could be in order of importance. And there's, again, a certain strategy to this. Some people like to start with their smaller points, their not so important points first, and then build up to, bam, this is my biggest idea and this is the strongest support for my thesis. And other people like to start right away with hitting people hard with, this is why this is important, and then filling in later on with some less important details. So again, it's up to you. A lot of you are doing what I call a problem solution / cause effect combination essay as you prepare your argument, and in that case you're actually going to be talking about you need to present a strong problem. And let me just go on to this next one because this relates to this. Within the rhetorical forms that you can use to create an actual paper, you can actually take these ways of organizing ideas and use it within your actual paragraphs. So even though we are writing an argumentative paper, you can use cause and effect as a way of organizing an internal paragraph. And for some of you, this is very important because if you're talking about a specific problem that you're seeing on your floor or it's somewhere within the nursing profession, first of all, you have to prove to us that this is a problem so that we are going to take your solution seriously. And one way of doing that is to really look at what are the causes of that problem and what are the effects, like what are the really detrimental effects to this problem that is making it so huge that we really have to think about how we're going to deal with this and come up with a solution fast, because this is a huge problem and the scope of this problem affects everybody. So I think I'm going to give you a worksheet that defines these rhetorical forms in more depth, but I just wanted to show you a couple of these so that you can see, yes, within my paragraph, I could really use compare and contrast to highlight the differences between these two approaches. Or yes, within my paragraph, I could really give a strong description of this one particular solution, or within one of my paragraphs, maybe within your background section, I really need to define my terms so that we all understand what I'm talking about when I say compassion fatigue versus burnout. So these are some examples of how you could use those rhetorical forms to organize your paragraphs. This is the references section for this particular PowerPoint. This is where I got a lot of this information from. And again, if you have any questions moving forward, feel free to contact me. I'm always available. And we're going to move forward with reviewing the exemplar.